stick of paper with me. Yeah, that's happening. Rick. Yep, Rick. All right, everybody. Let's go ahead and get the show on the road.
All right, let's do it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Start the theme music.
Hey, welcome everybody to The Sonic Truth. This is Justin here along with my host Chris, and today we have a very special and exciting guest, someone in which we've been waiting to get on the show for the past few months. And man, I can't even explain anymore. We're just going to bring him in. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, come on, Will, bring it on in. How you doing today?
What's up, guys? How are you guys?
We're doing good. We're trying to maintain cool in this sunny Florida.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me. This is a real honor. I love you guys so much. I love Audioscape, so to be able to hang out with you guys is really, really fucking cool for me.
Well, that's awesome. We love having you as a guest. I know Trevor and a lot of people on over at the team at Audioscape have been uber excited. Yeah.
Very cool. That's very, very cool.
So I'm looking forward to getting to our conversation. So for some of our listeners out there who may not know who you are, a little bit of your background, could you just give us a little slice of pie about where you came from and what got you started into the music industry?
Yeah, I just love music, man. I just love music. I've always loved music ever since I've been, playing drums since I was 11 years old. And I just fell in love with music. I fell in love with playing. I fell in love with songwriting. And when I jumped into my first recording studio session when I was 12, me and my buddy, my best friend at the time saved up like $100, which was so much money for a 12-year-old. That's like might as well be $1 million, for a 12-year-old.
That's 100 longs cut.
We saved up months and months and months of allowances and whatever, and we like stole, candy money from shit we're supposed to sell or something, you know what I mean, to get it. And we're like, all right, cool. We found the studio. We found the studio that was charging whatever $20 an hour to record in this guy's home studio, and we went, and that's when it clicked. Even at 12, it clicked. I was like, I love playing and I love writing songs, but being a producer, being on the wider end of it, the big picture side of it, I fell in love with it. From then on, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to live in a recording studio. So I asked the guy, Chris Grillo, who became my mentor, I asked him if I could work for him for free. I said, dude, let me, get your coffee, I'll clean your toilets, just let me hang out. And he said, I'm actually opening up a new studio. Would you be down to come and run the rehearsal rooms? And I said, fuck yeah. And it all spawned from there. And I've been a studio rat ever since. I never had another job. I just worked at his studio for $5 an hour until I was like 18. And I started recording bands in my mom's basement when I was 16. And I just kind of grinded, man. And I just fell in love with it. And I've never looked back. So yeah, that's kind of a short story of how I kind of got started in this. But it was it was pretty meant to be for me. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Some similarities I got to draw on here is I also had a recording studio in my early teens, late teens in my parents' house.
Yeah.
During that time, did you experiment with recording? Because on occasion I would have live bands come in and they wanted to try to get a really unique, different sound. And I had a Tascam 2600 D88s. So we put a pig nose inside a washing machine, closed it, and recorded lead guitar solos through that. And to this day,
awesome.
What I would do is if there's like it gives it a real strange resonance to it. I wouldn't keep it as the main track. I kind of keep it as a layered track. But on a rare occasion today, if I'm in a situation where I have a live guitarist, I'll almost create the box around the amp like a wash machine and direct the mic in the opposite direction as long as that is a reflective surface. So didn't know if you had any different tips and tricks you learned from working in the basement.
Yeah, so my mom's basement was half the size of this control room. It was a tiny, tiny room with 5 sweaty dudes tracking in it, but we're all referencing records that have massive, massive drum sounds. Every record we're referencing In Utero, we're referencing Black Album, we're referencing all these crazy drum records. I'm like, this is a 10 by 10 room, man. But luckily, we're right next to a staircase and a garage that wasn't completely soundproof through. Like you get a good amount of sound in the garage or in the staircase. So I started putting mics in there, right? And I started playing a lot with room mics. And that's when I kind of started really falling in love with manipulating room mics, right? It was taking a pair of whatever, any condensers that I had, throwing them in the furthest room that can collect sound and crushing them, taking a crappy 1176 plugin and crushing it, and then trying to emulate the Black Album, emulate In Utero. And I kind of kept doing that for the rest of my life. So right now, we call it the secret mics at Studio 4. There's a room behind our pianos, like an ISO room, that's not completely dead. There's a cool echo to it. And we always put a pair of ribbon mics in there for drums. And it sounds like it's a mile away. That's I wish, one day we'll deep dive into one of my sessions. If you mute those mics, it feels like you left the room. It feels completely dry. And those are still other rooms, but that is really my secret sauce on my drums. And I really got that started in my mom's basement when I was fucking 16 years old, kind of finding a way to make these guys happy and try to get big drum tones and make myself happy because I'm a drummer.
It forced your creativity.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just experiment, and then you carry that on. That's awesome.
I mean, how cool is it that I honestly have never tried that. In all the years of recording, I've never tried to record the ambience per se. It's almost like walking in the street and going by a club, and you're feeling that energy. But what that adds to those other tracks,
and then if you mute it, and then so you lose something, even though it might not be so overt in the in the mix.
Have you tried anything unique in your experience, Chris?
I'm sure. Geez, I mean, the last time we recorded drums, Pete threw a mic facing the toilet.
Oh, really?
Oh, hell yeah.
And we had the toilet mic. It wasn't that bad. I think it was actually a Steger ribbon we used. And it was, beautiful mic, just to mic the toilet, which is, go figure. But
that's funny.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. They've done all sorts of weird bonkers experiment. That's the fun of it, though.
We got a toilet and a washing machine and then a stairwell. Yeah. I think the stairwell worked out the best for all three of us.
Yeah, that's the thing. You want reflections, right? You want color. So anything will work if you get some extra color out of it. And then, you mold it. You mold it with great tools,
Now, going to Studio 4, I did a little research on it, and I'm aware of the upstairs of what it once was. All right? I mean, that's the hip-hop era of everything about that. And you're able to kind of, blend into that latter part of that by working into the Lauryn Hill camp and situation. Real quick, do you know Che Pope?
I don't.
If that rings a bell. He used to be our A&R at Warner, and he was on the first album with Lauren, Miseducation. But anyway, the Butcher Brothers.
Very cool.
How amazing of an experience. How did you end up meeting those guys?
Oh man, this story, we can talk about this for 2 hours, it's well documented, I won't go, I won't regurgitate a bunch of stuff I said before, but, I can't stress enough how important Studio 4 is to me and how important the Butcher Brothers are to me. They, growing up, I was a music geek. I was like a, pop culture music, or just, I collected CDs. I read liner notes, I memorized production credits, on my hardcore records, on my pop records, on my hip hop records. And, the Fugees, The Score is one of my favorite records of all time. The first cassette I ever bought when I was like 8, with my own money, was a Boyz II Men record, right? And that Boyz II Men, 2 was it, and
Boyz II Men? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you know Boyz II Men?
Yeah. I don't, but they did a lot of their records here, so I feel very connected to them.
Well, Wanye is a good friend of mine.
Oh, that's awesome. Tell him.
I was going to ask you about Studio 4 because that was their starting point. And for you to say at 8 years old, one of the first ones you bought, that's cool.
Yep.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, please.
Continue. Yeah.
No, please. That's awesome. Because please send him my love. Because
I will.
That's, Yeah. I think at one point they were living in Conshohocken or around here, still around the studio. So please send them my love because those records really imprinted on my life. And so those records, I open them up and it's fucking recorded in Philadelphia or Conshohocken when the studio was in Philly back in the day. And I was like, shit, man, one day I want to work there. That's a dream. Like, it didn't feel real to me though, right? It's kind of like growing up, you always think, like as a, broke ass kid in North Philly, you don't think you're ever going to make it to LA. LA might as well have been Mars, right? You know what I mean? And Studio 4 is the same thing because you're like, these guys are making huge records in Philly, but like it could be a dream. One day I'm gonna work there. One day I'm gonna end up there. Maybe, I hope, if all things end up. And it was always just like the carrot in front of me. I just always made my decisions based on, man, is this gonna help me get to Studio 4? In terms of the studio life. And I worked at another studio for a while. It was called Indre in South Philly. They did a lot of cool records. They worked with a lot of local radio stations. And I recorded a live record with them, with the band The Fray. And at that point, everyone was telling me, yo, you want to work at Studio 4. Phil Nicolo, one half of the Butcher Bros, teaches at Temple University. And at this point, I was a senior in high school. And my parents, my fucking Chinese immigrant parents, they're like, yo, you're not going to Temple. You're going to fucking Penn. I had a thing kind of ready to go to Penn, to go to like a cool Ivy League school or do whatever. I was like, yo, I'm going to play drums and produce music. Like I don't think I need to go to one of these schools. And I was like, but the guy that I want to meet, the studio I want to be at, the owner of that studio teaches at Temple. I'm going to fucking Temple. I decided to go to Temple just to meet this guy. Because at that point, this was what, 03, 04. And there's no way for me to get Studio 4. There's no like DM on Instagram. There's no like email that you can find.
Right,
you know what I mean? There's not even a phone number.
He was knocking on doors.
Yeah. And so, I committed to Temple, and second semester, I went to Phil's class. I took Phil's class. I stayed an hour. He had a line out the door of kids trying to talk to him, like kiss his ass after the first class. And I was like, I'm gonna be the last guy because I'm gonna leave an impression. I had a resume and I dropped off the Fray CD I did. And I was like, yo, I'm gonna work for you. I'm gonna crush it. And I was just very confident in my delivery. And he said, dude, just show up. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Just show up, but that's a piece of advice, man. Most of it, it's a cliche, but so much of it is just showing up. You know what I mean? So much of the work, rather is being in any part of the industry or in any industry, it's just showing up because people need work and people need help. And if you're there, you're going to help in some way, even if you're just fucking there. So I showed up that day. I couldn't find the studio. I remember being outside. It's completely hidden. It's under this. I won't give too much, but we share the building with a restaurant. And I pull up. He gave me the address. I pull up. I'm like, dude, did he fucking prank me? Did he prank me? Like I just see a bar, and I go looking around. I go, on the internet looking at the yellow pages, and I'm like, where the hell is this studio? And I haven't called some friends. I was like, yo, can you go online and find some numbers or find something? And found a number. No one's picking up. I remember getting in my car and driving down, like, I guess I'm going home. I can't find, I was there for like an hour and a half outside in the cold, and I'm like, no, I told this dude I was showing up. I'm showing up. So I turned the car back around. I parked again, and I just stood outside. I asked people, do you know where a studio is? The studio was that? And they all looked at me like I was fucking crazy because they was really nice. And you have this kid looking for a music studio, and then I went to the bar because I know where else to go because that was the closest address was this bar. I was like, yo, do you know where this recording studio is at? And they're like, oh, it's right through the doors. So I went down. I remember I was so nervous. I went down. He was so surprised to see me. He was recording this band from Brazil. And I just stood there. I didn't feel worthy to even sit down, because people were busy. So I just stood in the corner of the studio absorbing this. I was there until midnight. I was there for like 6 hours. just standing up. And I was like, all right, what do you need? You want me to take out the trash? You want me to do this? And I was in that studio every day since. I've been in here every day since.
He hasn't left yet.
Now he's sitting
Yeah,
down.
I haven't left yet.
Say.
Yeah. But yeah, that was '06 at that point. And I told him, I'm gonna work here. I was like, I'm gonna find my place here. There was a storage room that, when they moved from, the studio used to be on the top floor, a really big, beautiful top room. And we consolidated down to the bottom floor after he sold a rough house, sold a catalog and everything. They moved everything to this, all this extra storage was in this like tiny kind of studio space, like maybe 14 by 12 studio space. And I said, yo, if I get a storage facility and I put the shit somewhere that you don't need, can I rent this? Can I give you $1,000 a month and rent this room from you? Because it wasn't even like I needed it. I didn't need it, but I just wanted to solidify me being at Studio 4. I just wanted to be in the ecosystem of Studio 4. So I started doing that. I rented the big room, this room, to record drums, and I did all the overdubs in the small room. And it just kind of kept happening. It was, I really, really got lucky because while they were moving, they were rebuilding the downstairs. Like this live room wasn't even done. Like the trimming wasn't done. There wasn't even a floor put in. So it was like my perfect time to get in. And I said, yo, no one's using the studio because it wasn't like ready. But like, if no one's using it, can I just use the room and, kick you back a few $100 a night and bring these shitty hardcore bands, shitty punk bands in to record? And of course he said yes. So I kept doing it. And like this room still isn't done because I never stopped. I never stopped working in the studio. We're still doing it. And in 2013, I decided, things were just picking up. I decided to make them offer to buy the studio, which is crazy to me. I had people kind of wanted to back me. I got really lucky in this rock world, and he said fuck no, but you can buy half. And so I bought half the partnership with the studio in 2013, and here I am, in my dream studio that when I was 8 years old or 8 or 9 years old, bought a Boys and Men cassette tracked in the studio. So it's
a good thing you
to think.
Turned around after an hour and a half.
Yes. That's
Did
that's
you tell him that story after the fact?
I did. I told him that like a few days after, and he didn't give a shit. But now we laugh about it. 15 years later.
That is so cool. What a great story. That's so inspiring, Will, because so many people see that dream, and they just give up after their first or second attempt.
Any form of success, it's just consistency, just day in, day out. And I think that's, that's the most important thing. People, sometimes they put people that are successful on a pedestal, like they did something crazy just consistency. You just day in, day out, do the same thing and do it well. You have a goal, you just go for it, every day.
Exactly. Like I'm not going to lie. And this is no self-bashing at all. I'm being completely honest. I was a terrible engineer. I wasn't good when I was even at that age. I was just trying things. I was a drummer. I listened to punk records and hardcore records. I was just trying shit. It wasn't this like next level savant skill that I had. It was I walked in the room and I said, all right, I might not be the most talented at anything, but I'm going to outwork everyone in this room, even to the artist. I promise you that, and you want me on your side because I'm going to work for you. I'm going to work with you, and I'm going to outwork everyone. And still to this day, that's the that's the attitude I keep. So that's another big piece of advice I give to people. Just fucking show up and work, man. Just
as simple as what Phil said. Just show up. Results.
Yeah.
Got to get it done.
Just get in the fight and figure it out as you go along.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Hell yeah.
So moving forward, let's talk a little bit more gear specific here. Anything that you would like to pick his brain about?
Well, I was wondering if you had to make a record with just one preamp and one compressor. Let's say you have a mic collection. You can choose between different mics, but one preamp, one compressor. Obviously, you can have multiples of it for a drum kit. What would you go with? Desert Island.
What What a crazy, crazy, crazy question. That's a crazy, crazy question. But I'm ready. I'm ready because I'm well versed in this. So again, I've been lucky enough to work at this studio for 16 years now, in front of a Neve 8048, one of the only 7 that's fully intact. Excuse these holes though. We have modules in other studios right now. But for a preamp, I've used all your classics. You know what I mean? Like, again, working for Lauren Hill, Miss Lauren Hill, she had a collection that was mind blowing. She had a Frank Zappa's API desk. She had, a 16 1073, 16 1081s. She had every compressor.
She had Zappa's API desk.
She had, yep, Zappa's API desk, the white one. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Yeah, she got it from the estate. Got it from the estate. Yeah,
I'm surprised Dweezil and Amit let that go.
Yeah, crazy. It was crazy. It's on the back. I forget which record, but there's a picture of him smoking a cigarette. Like they're just putting the ashes on the console, right on the console. The ashes are falling on the console. I'm like, that's badass. Yes. But there's people. Yeah, people want to make always done comparisons between a Class A, Class 8B, or whatever. But the 1081s, there's something to it. I swear, there's something to it in terms of a preamp, EQ preamp, a channel strip coming in. The 1081s, I can't make a record without it. I feel naked without it. I've made plenty of records without it, but I feel different when I don't have it. It's like, it's my tool. It's it's the Excalibur for me. Everything just sounds good through it. And I will proudly say that in the last 16 years, there's no one on this planet that has clocked in more hours on 1081s, on original 1081s than I have in the last 16 years. Because that's all I've been doing, all I've been recording with for the last 16 years, for 14 hours a day, every single fucking day. And I fell in love with them the first time I used it, and I still love them to this day. I would not pick another solid state preamp or any preamp over a 1081. That's my go-to. You give me you give me a rack of 1081s, and we're making a record, and it's going to sound insane. Now the go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, the compressors for sure.
All right, so I am a Neve guy. I'm just a Neve, again, working on this console for so long. That's just where my taste is. I like that Neve goo. I like that it sounds like a tank. For some reason, it just sounds weighty. All Neve stuff just sounds weighty. In this console, there's 6 2254s built in, and it's a tie. This is my go-to compressors, or my Desert Island compressors. 2254s to maybe track, 33609s to mix. I know you asked for one, but I'm gonna say 2, and that's for both ends. And those, again, that Neve juice is so important to me. If I had to ever have signature gear, it's of the Neve color, baby. It's the Neve color, because that's just my blood. It's in my blood.
That's awesome. That wasn't even that wasn't that hard of a question.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I love the complexity of the answer. So the 1081s, have you driven any drum machines hard through that preamp?
Oh, I have driven everything hard into that preamp.
Yes, right.
But yes, drum machines sound insane. Even, we love it. I remember I was doing a record with the singer from Turnstile. He had a solo project that was very kind of like R&B, people didn't expect it coming from, the singer of like the biggest hardcore band on the face of the earth. But it was very R&B, kind of Sade influence. And he had all these drum sounds already, but they were all like stock Logic drum sounds. And he was like, yo, I just wrote the record to this. We tried to like replace some of other sounds. We're like, it always felt like the soul was missing because we wrote it to it. It was like, it was a part of the, that sound was a part of the songs, but he knew he wanted to make it richer and sound just a little gooier and better, a little more saturated. And we're like, yo, what if we drive these to fucking hard through the 1081s, and the 2254s. So that's what we did, and that gave us our sound. And no one listened to that record saying, "Oh, those sounds like Logic stock Logic tones." Those aren't even not even like Contact or like anything. They were stock Logic, like you
No
pull
third
Logic
party.
snare drum.
Third party plugins.
You pull stock Logic drum sounds, and those are the ones we use. But we really color them, just driving them in. There wasn't any EQ. It was just driving them in and compressing with the 2054s, and you got that nice saturation, that good distortion, and it sounds, I will make a sample out of that. I will make a sample back out of the tones we got, because they're awesome. Yeah.
Now, during your when you record, since the majority of the music that you record and produce encompasses live musicians, do you have a preference? And I know it usually comes down to the group or the musicians you're working with, but do you prefer to track the entire group to capture that live feel? Or do you segment it in doing the rhythm section first and then layering it segment by segment thereafter?
All right, this is a loaded question. I don't do things the same with every record. I think it's well advertised that, when I do a record with a band, I just joined the band. What I tell bands is, you don't come to studio you don't come to do a record with me to get a Will record. That's not what I do. I have no interest in that. My goal is that when we agree to do a record together, I join the band and I make your record. I don't care if we make the record on fucking Mars. You know what I mean? I don't care if we make the record whatever. It's our heads, it's our ideas. At the end of the day, we can talk about gear all day, and it's so important to me. But what's paramount are the songs. And my goal is to get the best songs possible. Whatever that means, whatever it takes to get us those songs, boom, we're gonna do it. To answer your question, I'll use an example to this band, very, very important band to me called Title Fight. And we go out of our way to approach it different because, we even said the record we made when we were 17 should not be the same record or the same style or what we do when we're 30. We should be doing things different. The first record we did live, no click. It was just live in a room. Everyone played live, and we loved it because, they already had these songs figured out for so long because it was the first record. The second record, we're like, let's give a little more attention to detail of everything. And this is where I really kind of found my stride in working with a band and really finding the best way for me to dig into every aspect of the song and basically to find my pocket. And what we did was, I still want that live energy. I still want that live energy with a band, right? But I know we're going to get better nuances and more and whatever, better, probably objectively better performances if we overdub. You know what I mean? Subjectively, probably different. You get a different life, when playing live. So I'm like, all right, how do I do both, right? How do I do both? So now pre-pro has been the most important part of my process. It's pre-proing, and we pre-pro live. We set up, the studio is always set up to pre-pro live. That everyone sets up, everyone plays, and we run through the songs. We try out ideas. We try out every single idea, and then all right, I'm going to give away my secrets a little bit, but it sounds crazy, but we play it live, and then I basically stretch a click to the live performance. So I have an automated click, a manual automated click to the live performance, and we say, this is what we're doing. Do we like this now? First off, is the song good? Is the structure good? Or melody's good? Is the key good? Whatever. But now the flow of everything, this is it live. Does it feel jerky? Does it feel a little fucked up? All right, maybe the choruses, maybe this part, maybe just this whole song needs to get more on the grid, more closer to being quantized. So we're like, all right, let's move it. Boom, 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 boom. So we have basically, once we snap everything to the click, it's kind of like Ableton and kind of like hip hop records. You can start molding it to what you want. If you want it to feel more live, if you want that last two bars of the verse going to the chorus to ramp up a little bit, we just draw it, or I just draw it and say, all right, how does that sound? Yeah. Once we get a map that feels really good, that's flowing really good with the pre-pro, then we have this map, this moving click, then I'm like, all right, now we're going to play to that. Now we're going to overdub to that. And we slowly replace everything. We replace the drums, then we replace the bass, so that we still get the nuances, we still get the control of the performances, but everything, the tree that everything grew from was this live performance that we kind of groomed, that we molded to what we wanted. You know what I mean? You know, I don't like doing a record live just to say we did it live. I don't give a shit about that. I don't care about that. I just want it to feel great. So there's live elements that feel great, and there's elements when you're overdubbing, when you're tracking the drums by itself a million times, that you're gonna get great stuff. Is how do we get all of that? And that's been kind of like my secret or my recipe to collect all of that. It's very hard. It's very tedious. It's like we record the record 3 times, really. You know what I mean? And we edit the record 3 times. And so it's really tedious, but it gets the job done, and there's no surprises. You know, we want to capture basically the surprises, the magical moments is what we get in the room, and we want to kind of make a stamp of it so that we can recreate the magic or recreate different magic, you know? So yeah, that's kind of how I do it. You know, I've actually never heard that's been done before, or the way I do it. I never read someone else doing that before, but I do it because I want to keep my dudes happy. And I think that when we print the pre-pro demo after we do all the molding of the map, everyone's the consensus usually is like, yo, can we just put this out? Can we save some money and just put this shit out? I'm like, no, we're gonna get better tones and better performances, you know? Yeah.
I love the process of that, because at the same time, what you're doing is you're allowing the songwriters and musicians to become more married to that song. So by the time you get to their second, third take, it's so natural that feeling just isn't lost when you captured it that first time.
Exactly. So, you know, the goal, again, it might take us 20 takes to get that perfect live, or like where we want to start from, you know, but again, a lot's put on this end to make sure it's molded tastefully, you know what I mean? And make sure it's molded to their liking. And that's key. That's, you know, I take my job as a producer very seriously, and I don't take it for granted. So, you know, we work hard. We go very, very hard with making sure that these records feel perfect to these guys.
I was going to ask, like, what's the most overlooked thing, you know, from a producer or artist standpoint? And I think he just answered that, you know, with pre-production, doing the work ahead of time, and your particular method of doing it, which is, you know, I don't think I've really heard anyone doing it that way. You know,
I've always had to do it after the fact. Always had to adjust the tempo after the fact. But I like that method allows the musicians, it allows the musicians to stay true to their original song, right? You're not forcing a click down their throat where it's like, well, it's not meant to, it's supposed to drag a little here. Yep.
Exactly.
That's great.
That push and that pull, that natural push and pull that you get live. Getting that on record, that's spectacular. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah. I got to hang out in the studio with you sometime. We definitely have
Dude, you should. You're welcome anytime.
Well, you know, I stayed up in Ben Salem a couple times over a couple months, a couple years, so I know it's in the area.
That's where the OG Mama studio was, man. That's crazy. It was like a block down, 2 blocks down.
That's crazy. Where I was introduced to Wawa in 2004 and 2005.
Amazing. Amazing.
Well, on that note, is it cool if we bring Trevor in?
Yeah.
And,
of course.
We'll get
Trevor's
Trevor
my dude.
on board. And
Trevor's everyone's dude.
Yo, Trevor is a cool cat. But thank you for taking the time, Will, today to kind of let our viewers know a little bit behind the scenes of how you make these amazing records. And a lot of it really just comes from hard work, man. You know,
absolutely.
People can always watch Michael Jordan. I think you're a sports fan too. We'll talk about that.
I'm a big sports fan.
I'm a huge sports fan as well. I grew up near Chicago, so I'm a huge Bulls fan.
I'm a big Jordan fan. A little funny thing. We were talking. I was hanging out with the Movements guys recently, and we were talking about eating sushi, and we're talking about inspiration, about musical inspiration, and like the drummer and the bass player was like, "Oh yeah, growing up, this guy was such an inspiration." And the drummer was talking about someone, I forget what drummer it was, but like a really cool like drummer's drummer. And I was like, "Damn, I don't really have that for me. I don't have that guy that was like my inspiration." I was like, "Oh, I do. His name is Michael Jordan." that's my inspiration for my daily inspiration for how I go about my business.
Well, I can't. We'll talk another episode because
that could be a whole episode in itself. Yeah.
My history with the Bulls and Jordan and that 3 compete with Rodman and Pippen.
Wow.
That speaks loudly because that's 3 completely different personalities that work together on the court and just killed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
all right.
yeah, yeah,
I'll
we
get to
got- we gotta
Trevor.
talk.
Yeah, we will, man. All right. Great speaking with you, Will. I really appreciate you
you
taking
too.
the time today.
You too. Great to talk to you, brother.
Likewise.
oh, that was fun.